call the regular session of the Yuma County Board of Supervisors, also sitting as all special taxing district, to order February 3rd, 2025, 9 a.m. Can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Raise your lines. Can you please lead us?
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll move on to call to the public. Call to the public is held for public benefit to allow individuals to address issues within the board's jurisdiction. Board members may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute 38-431.01H, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to criticism, or scheduling the matter for further discussion and decision at a future date. Public comments may be made in person or submitted by email at publiccomments@yumacountyaz.gov. The email forms of public comments will be accepted until 8 a.m. the morning of the meeting. All public comments will be read out loud during the Yuma County Board of Supervisors meeting that starts at 9 a.m. Desiree, do we have any?
We do not.
Anybody from the public that wishes to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations and proclamations and appointments.
Chairman, I'd like to make an appointment. I'd like to reappoint Matias Rosales to his Planning and Zoning Commission membership. He's agreed to continue serving.
And anybody else? None?
No.
Okay. Item number 1, presentation by Visit Yuma Executive Director Marcus Carney. Welcome.
Good morning.
Morning.
There we go. How are you guys doing?
Good, Marcus.
Great, thank you.
For having me. I appreciate it. I think I presented probably 2 or 3 years ago to all of you. As you may know, Visit Yuma, we're a 501c6 nonprofit. We receive the majority of our funding from the city of Yuma. We have about 10% of our total budget comes from a membership as well. So that membership goes throughout all of Yuma County. There are a few things that we're kind of looking at coming up that we're hoping to see some funding adjustments. There's a bill at the state level. They're called tourism improvement areas that we're hoping to be able to enact here in Yuma County. You'll see a little bit later in my presentation, we have a big growth in the number of hotels that we're having here in Yuma. A lot of that growth is outside of the city necessarily. And like I said, we're funded through the 2% hospitality tax collected within the city of Yuma. And so we still see ourselves as representing the entire community, not just the city of Yuma. We do our best to represent the city of Yuma, but we do represent the entire county. Do I have a clicker can I click down on this? Oh, yes, I can. Look at that. Wonderful. We obviously have a team. This team is super dedicated. A couple of them are here to my right here. Dedicated to representing this community. They're passionate about Yuma. Their job every day is to tell people about all the great things that we have going on here in Yuma. Both people, our visitors, our winter visitors, our travelers, all those weekend visitors. They come to our visitor center. They talk to us. We tell them what's going on. We also proactively try to reach out to folks in the media space, tour operators. So think about those 56 passenger buses we see at Lutz. Those are folks that we proactively try to work with to bring here to town. And so that's the team. You can see a few of them to my right here. And then, of course, we're led by our board of directors. I have my vice chair, Darlene Firestone, here today with us. And lots of great people who are really dedicated to serving the community again. All right. This last year, a lot of you were involved with our last spring. We were involved with a strategic planning session that we went through, really trying to understand who we want to be as an organization and how we want to represent this community. Destination organizations, which is what we are, can serve their community in a lot of different ways. And ultimately, it comes down to what the community wants from us. And so this is 4 different kind of categories that we saw representation of how people were responding. You can see support enhancing asset development. There was a lot of conversation about event venues. Of course, there's a lot of conversation about needing additional like entertainment or restaurants and stuff like that to support the industry. You can see revitalization of downtown. The conversation about how we look on I-8 is really important. How we look on the waterfront, how we look in our downtowns is a big important conversation within our industry. So we're working to try to find ways that we can work within our community to make those things beautiful and make those things better. Another one I'll talk about in a second is adoption of a Yuma brand. One of the things that we need to do better as a community is message as one, have one voice going out, talk as one, and be more cohesive. I'll talk about that in a second. And then just building what we can do internally and representing what we see in this community and looking for us. And if at any point you guys have any questions, feel free to ask them. I don't want to be just kind of, monolithic up here. Here's a few of our major strategic efforts. I'm not going to get super into all of this. Happy to talk about details about everything that we do. As an organization, there's been a lot of conversation around film this last year. The state of Arizona now has a tax incentive. We didn't have a tax incentive for a long time. We just got a tax incentive back. So there is a more competitive opportunity for us to start getting film again. We're working with one called Desert Backyard. That's a good example of someone that we're working with to try to get them here. Those folks are going to come for like 2-3 weeks. They're going to bring 40, 50 people. And each of those people are going to stay in their own room. They're going to eat their own food. So like that is a huge economic hit to our community. And so it's going to be really good to have them here. I think they come in February. We have 28,000 total followers across all of our social media. We also work with a agency called J-Ray for some PR proactive work to work with travel writers and influencers and those types of people. One of the things that we get response to probably more than anything is those you see those stories on Facebook and they're AI generated and it's like top 10 cities across wherever and it's a very impersonal way to read about it, and everyone gets really excited and all that kind of stuff. I think one of the really important trends that we need to make sure that we're working towards is still working with people, working with humans who are writing stories, who are talking about our community, and so PR is one of our larger efforts that we have as an organization, trying to make sure that people are telling our story. People are talking about what we see as beautiful in this community. I think that's the story that we can kind of present more than anything, is making sure people see who we truly are. Marketing. We had about 226,000 website visitors last year. That's a lot. They have a pretty good time on our website. 1.4 million total page views. We've got an app there. We have 7,600 users. Again, these are just some of the ways that we reach people. We see about 10,000 people to the visitor center. Hopefully down the street, 264 South Main, we have a visitor center. That welcomes a lot of people Tuesday through Saturday, 10,000 people a year. So make sure you're sending your friends there. We have a sales effort. We proactively attempt to reach to, like I said, tour and travel groups. So that's anywhere from the single traveler, the FIT traveler we call them, to the 56 passenger buses. We have to proactively pitch ourselves. We have to get out there and tell our story. Our community has to get out and tell their story so that people are thinking about making sure that we book those in the future. And like I said, membership is a big part of who we are. We have 354 members within Yuma County right now. Those are mostly in the hospitality industry, restaurants, RV parks, hotels, that kind of stuff. And we're working to try to be better just like everybody and let data lead what we are doing and see kind of all the trends that we see coming forward. One of the other things that we do, we used to do a lot of events. I'm sure that's something that everyone remembers us for. We are not focusing on event production now. We do still put on the Electric Light Parade, and so that is one of the events that we do. we're trying to focus obviously a little bit more on how we can support events that other organizations are putting on and telling their stories. We do produce an annual visitor guide. This came out in November. Some of you were at our guide release. So these are available to our visitors. The intent is to try to get people excited, to try to find something to do while they're here. This is serving as an inspiration guide. We are running with the theme of Desert Spirit this year, trying to use that to tell the story. We're doing a program with the Yuma School District where they're helping us capture some photos also about the Desert Spirit. We're really excited about what that's going to end up looking like. They're taking a sign that looks like the letters there, Desert Spirit, around town. Some of the kids live in Mexico, and so we're taking it across the border, so we're getting some really cool photos about what it's like to be a person in this community. We have launched this program last year, and there is a QR code at the bottom there, so please feel free to scan it. It's called the Sunshine Award. The Sunshine Award is a frontline customer service award. We thought, as Visit Yuma, we needed to do a better job of celebrating this hospitality community, which includes a lot of frontline service workers. And so we developed this Sunshine Award. We launched it last year, and then this year with the Yuma Sun, we've been collecting monthly winners. The Sun writes about them. Frontline customer service people, so people who work in restaurants, people who work in coffee shops. We've had insurance agents, we've had hairstylists, all those types of people. I think 112 were nominated last year. And then we pick 4 Sunshine ambassadors that Visit Yuma kind of celebrates them throughout the year. We try to get them more networking opportunities. We try to get them some opportunities to kind of engage in the community. And truly, it's a way to try to engage people who are the best of our industry, best of hospitality, to make sure that they are staying in this industry, that they are pushing further in their careers, and ultimately developing better things for our community. You heard me mention partnerships. It's a big part of what we try to focus on, is how we can partner. We partner with the Chamber of Commerce, the GYIDC. Obviously, the intent here is making sure that we're not just repeating programs, or we're not stepping on each other's feet. So we really consciously make sure that we put partnering with those organizations and other nonprofits and economic-focused organizations within Yuma County at the forefront of what we do. We really want to make sure that we are building those partnerships, that the programs that we're building are reflective in theirs, but they also don't step on their toes. So you see that quite a bit here. And ultimately, we do this all through storytelling. Our job is storytellers. Our job is to tell people and inspire them to come here. And so that's what you'll kind of see everything based in. This next year is a great story that we can tell as a country. The semi-quincentennial is in 2026. It's 516 days from now. It's not too long. I am serving on a governor commission for the 250th anniversary. And we're doing a bunch of stuff across the state. We're hoping to be able to utilize Yuma County quite a bit into it. Talked with the city of Yuma about getting involved. Love to see Somerton, San Luis, and Welton involved too with some of these efforts. Two Lights for Tomorrow is going to be the first event you're going to hear about. April 18th at the Capitol in Phoenix, symbolizing Paul Revere's 2F by C. Two Lights will be shining off the Capitol. We'll be doing an event to kick off kind of a year of 250. So something we're really excited for. One of the things that we think is going to have one of our bigger impacts. We're going to hopefully be getting a passport that will get people active around the state. And so we'll be making sure we have a lot of good spots for Yuma on there. And there'll also be a traveling museum that will be coming here to Yuma. And we'll be making sure that we get throughout the entire county, not just the city of Yuma. Another one this last year we focused on is Hello on Yuma. Again, focusing on storytelling. This was a response to make sure that we are introducing ourselves. One of the things I think that we all can recognize is a lot of times Yuma's story is told by other people, by other people's perceptions of what's happening here, what other people's perceptions of what's happening at the border. And so that conversation outweighs what our real experience is here, right? And so this was an opportunity to say, wait, hold on, let's reintroduce who we are. And we have some videos that are out there that have been pretty positively responded to. I don't know if you can tell, that's Kyle Gass there to the left of Kyle Gass. And anyone Tenacious D fans? Yeah, all right, good. He played at the fair and wore one of our shirts, so that's pretty cool. And like I said, focusing on Desert Spirit this year, we're going to be doing a partnership with the school district. And this is a way we also encourage other nonprofits, businesses to utilize this message and tell it throughout this next year. What else do I have? I think I got some numbers here. Come on, button. Oh, one of the important things, like I said, we do need to go through some branding. Creating a community brand, I think, is an important kind of step that we need to take. Right now, when nonprofits, when cities, when the county, when we're all talking about what's going on in this community, we do it a little bit segmented so that our message isn't 100% cohesive going out to other people. And so this is a process where we need to learn a little bit about ourselves, what makes us unique, what makes us attractive to people, what are people in this community saying about us to build that brand, what are people saying outside about us, what are the things that they're going to respond positively to, what are the things that they say, hey, that's everyone, you can't just say that, you have to say it in this way. And ultimately what we hope to get out of this is some cohesive ways for us to communicate about this community. This isn't to supersede or replace any brands that there currently are, but we do hope to come with a brand guide and get something that can say, hey, this is how people should talk about Yuma. This is how the hospital should be talking about Yuma. This is how the school district should be talking about Yuma. This is how the cities can talk about themselves within this community. This is how we should be branding ourselves and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully we can go through this process and we'll be looking for partners this upcoming year to try to start this process. This is the impact slide. This is the one where what is the travel industry? Visit Yuma, our job is ultimately to reflect these folks. We have $754 million in economic spending every single year. That was 2023 in Yuma County. We have 6,200 jobs in Yuma County. A hospitality job is great because that's a job that cannot be taken anywhere else. You can't replace a hospitality job in Yuma by getting a job in Phoenix because you have to have the job here. You have to have a server here. So those are great jobs for us. And our taxpayers that come and visit us, they replace $820 per household in tax spending. So without those visitors, every household would spend $820 extra dollars. I mentioned the hotels. To the far left there, that's where we're currently at. We're at 3,618 total rooms. The kind of addition to this is you all have probably noticed there's been a growth in Airbnbs. Those are direct competitors for our hotels. We have about 475 Airbnbs right now. Last time I presented, I talked about the growth. The growth has been pretty consistent since the last time 2 years ago I spoke. But comparing to where we were before the pandemic, we had about 90 Airbnbs. So 475 is far more than 90. So, and this is kind of that growth that we expect to see for the next 5 years in the number of hotel rooms. You can tell that's a lot. That's 10 hotels, about 1,000 rooms expected to open. Those are things that are in the planning stages. So some of them won't come to fruition. You can kind of see the next 3 are the ones that we're like, yeah, they're building. We know that they're coming. Beyond 2026, those are the ones that we can put a question mark probably behind. The Somerton Hotel that they've been talking about is not on this list. So this is not a cohesive list. This is not everything. However, this is what we kind of currently expect. One of the research engines that we get can show us this. So that's a big growth. And like I said, a lot of that growth is outside of the city of Yuma. That's in the foothills area. That's beyond the foothills. That's San Luis and some in the Yuma. This is a good representation again, looking at the total revenue of our hotels. We peaked in 2023. That was a great year. But also it was so far above and beyond where we were pre-pandemic that we shouldn't think that the 2024 numbers are necessarily terrible. They're not terrible. They're just kind of like resetting back to a little bit norm. Room prices went up quite considerably. Number of people went up quite considerably. But one of the things that you will recognize is those numbers are going to stay pretty consistent. And so that's why we need to be doing some of that marketing and doing some of that branding so we can tell our story, so we can try to get some more people here. Because you add another 1,000 hotel rooms, suddenly those numbers don't start to look quite as good as they do. And here's a good slide to show you the difference of Airbnb growth too. Just under 8 million in 23, just under 18 million in 24, 1 year growth of $10 million. That's $10 million that probably didn't go to our hotels. And so, you know, sometimes it's easy to disassociate yourself and not remember that hotels employ people. They are owners in our community, and we love Airbnbs because those are people in our community too, but they are competitors for our hotels. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
No, just a comment. I mean, I was very thankful you brought the Airbnb, because that's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And it's whether we can ignore it or just add it to it. And I think adding makes sense.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more selfish and personal than it is than it is a community thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, the growth, it's kind of plateaued. We hit a plateau probably 2 years ago in the number of Airbnb rooms. And when I say 475, Airbnb looks a little different than a hotel room. A hotel room we know can be either 1 or 2 beds. An Airbnb, when I say 475, that could be a 1 bedroom, that could be a 5 bedroom. You know, you don't always know the difference in those. So like, is that exactly 475 competitors? We basically had 4 hotels open that we can kind of consider in Airbnbs itself. And so our hotel industry is seeing that competition. It's good competition. It's worthy competition, you know, but we do need to make sure that we are highlighting that it is competition.
And competition's always good.
Competition's a good thing.
Anything else? Marcos? Well, thank you, Marcos.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 2, presentation of the mix with Yuma County by Yuma 77, the Yuma County Government Channel.
Welcome to The Mix. Yuma County Public Works has been bustling over the past few weeks, balancing regular duties with student outreach and successfully advancing interdepartmental goals. Yuma County Public Works held its annual Career Technical Education Day, offering students valuable first-hand insight into the careers available in various fields, including highway maintenance, waste management, information technology, law enforcement, and more. The event allowed students to engage directly with staff members from multiple departments, gaining essential perspectives on the vital roles and career paths within county government.
I think the overall goal is always to enhance the opportunity for youth in our community to be able to see what career opportunities are available within Yuma County. And this year we expanded. We actually went out to other outside entities and invited them over to our event.
Throughout the day, attendees learned about the different opportunities within public service, discovering how their interests and skills could translate into meaningful careers that help the community. On top of this, the 2024 Leadership Education Advancement Program, or as we like to call it, LEAP, wrapped up. LEAP is a year-long program designed to help non-supervisory employees develop skills needed for leadership roles. Several Public Works employees completed their training. The program includes modules on supervisor roles, leadership, communication, and conflict management, with a focus on decision-making and effective management.
This program is a positive for Yuma County because it allows our department to have, the leadership that we need to be able to ensure that we have, stable leadership to meet those future challenges.
Thanks to their hard work, Servando, Emmanuel, Josue, and Juan are now ready to take on new leadership challenges and contribute to the department's growth. Before we head out, we wanted to remind you that The tax lien auction is approaching soon. Yuma County will hold its tax lien auction on February 24, 2025 at the Yuma County Board of Supervisors Auditorium. Registration begins at 8 a.m., with the auction starting at 9 a.m.
Treasurer is responsible for facilitating the auction itself. We have investors from all over the state come through, and they purchase delinquent tax liens, and that's what we do. We facilitate that at an auction that's on February 24th.
Participants must complete a W-9 form and bidder form to participate. Just a quick reminder that Monday, February 17th is President's Day, and most county offices will be closed in observance. Thank you for joining us on this episode of The Mix.
All right. Moving on to consent calendar, the following items listed under the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless a board member so requests. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action. And we have items 1 through 10.
Number 4.
Number 4.
I'll make a motion that we approve 1 through 10 with the exception of 4.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to approve items 1 through 10 with the exception of number 4. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, I pulled number 4 simply so I can recuse myself
Okay.
as the director of WIFA.
And I wanted a further explanation of how that's gonna work out. I mean, we apply and we apply for them and they manage it and they're responsible for repaying it. So how does that work?
Hello, good morning, Chairman Borchas, members of the board. I'm Veronica Garcia. I'm the grants administrator with Yuma County. So the application that we're submitting to WIFA for the Water Supply Development Revolving Fund, it's intended to, we're applying for grant funding. So once we apply for the grant, the funding will come to Yuma County, and then we are collaborating with the Yuma County water users as a subrecipient. So we would provide a subrecipient agreement with the Yuma County water users for them to implement the project itself.
You want to talk a little bit about the project and
Yes.
why it's so beneficial?
Yes, so I do have Charles here with the Yuma County water users.
It's a
and-
super win-win and probably one of the best projects that I've seen put forward.
Oh, good morning.
I'm glad to hear that. It's a pleasure to speak before you. I'm Charles Callum with Yuma County Water Users Association. The project consists of drilling 3 groundwater wells, which will extract water that's problematic for the farmers in the Yuma Valley. And it also will end up putting that water into the Yuma County Water Users drainage system, which ends up in San Luis, Arizona, where at our own expense, we lift that into Mexico, into the Sanchez Mejorada Canal, where the state of Arizona then gets credit for every bit of water that goes across that border.
Those are return flow credits.
Right, the ever sought after return flow credits. So what that means in short is every acre foot of water that we push across that border is an acre foot of water that stays in Lake Mead in direct conservation and then is available to other junior entitlement holders within the state of Arizona. So as Jonathan had mentioned, it's a win-win-win all the way around. We get some assistance. The Yuma County Water Users Association is also kicking into this project as well. So there will be power line construction that'll be required, discharge pipelines that'll be required, SCADA or automation and remote telemetry, so we can keep track of that water and the power that's used. And we also provide all the power as federal hydropower customers under the Parker Davis system through the Bureau of Reclamation. We have access to low-cost federal hydropower for things exactly like this. So again, as Veronica had mentioned, it's a grant program. It's not a loan program. It's administered through the state of Arizona.
Question, how many water districts are there in Yuma?
I really should know this, Mr. Reyes. I can name them off though. So we have North Gila, we've got Yuma Irrigation District, Yuma Mesa, Unit B, Yuma County Water Users, of course, and then Weldon Mohawk, and then across the river we've got Bard Water District also.
7.
Oh, the Yuma Mesa. It's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
You answered a question. Some of the water districts are pretty uptight about their budgets, and I wanted to make,
Right.
yeah, there's no,
You know, it's, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so great. We're different than all the other districts around here in that we're a private nonprofit corporation. We're not a state entity. And that's why we actually need the assistance of Yuma County to receive that grant as a state entity, as a government entity. Us as a nonprofit corporation, in and of itself, we wouldn't be eligible, but we've been working together with the WIFA staff to ensure that this is a proper process, which we've run it through several.
Yes, go ahead.
I'm sorry, your name again?
My name is Charles Cowan.
Hi, Charles.
Hi.
Charles. Does this help, will this water help meet our requirements for it? I know it's for recharge, but will it also help our requirements that we have with Mexico as far as the minute agreements?
Exactly. So it's under the 1944 U.S.-Mexico Treaty.
There you go.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's the
so,
one. So
okay,
Under that treaty, the state of Arizona, or rather, we can provide up to 140,000 acre-feet of water delivered at that Sanchez Mejorada Canal. That specifically, or what we call the SIB, or the Southerly International Boundary. And that's in addition to whatever comes in over at Rockwood Weir, which is just above Morales Dam in the main stem of the river. So up to that 140,000 acre feet. Now, we've fallen short just because we don't have the water supply. You know, we have to pump everything that comes at us. Otherwise, San Luis gets into a situation with some flooding. So we move that water across the levee. But we could do more. So this would create 3 new sources of water. And we anticipate also, I should mention, this is a 20-year lifespan estimated project based on our experience of operating other wells. We also operate wells on behalf of Yuma County Flood Control District. So we've been in this business for a while and we're confident in the project.
yes, but it helps meet our treaties that
Absolutely.
we're in, and that's another good thing.
It's not just a local issue, it's a state issue and a federal issue.
Yes, it is, yes,
Right.
so, thank you.
so does that allow us not to use the pumping system that's along the border? There's a bunch of wells.
The 242 well field along the border, that's a supplement to this 140,000 acre feet. So we've fallen short, I say we, and we being us and the Bureau of Reclamation together, where I believe that we've only hit the 140,000 max in the last 20 years, maybe 4 times. So we're leaving money on the table, if you will, by not pumping or not getting as much water into Mexico, which is otherwise nuisance water for us, really. So it just makes sense to do it that way. But to answer your question, Mr. Reyes, the Bureau of Reclamation will continue to operate their 242 well field along the border, in addition to their Yuma Mesa well field, and then anything down in the valley that we operate or they operate ends up in the drains, and then we push it back into Mexico as well.
All right, well, as long as it keeps the city of San Luis well supplied, which this will help do it, so, yeah, I think it's good for South County. I'll make a motion, we accept this proposal.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to accept item number 4 as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Charles.
Thank you.
Thank you, Veronica. Moving on to discussion and action items. Item number 1. The board is asked to set the amount of the bond that the Yuma County Treasurer is required to execute to the state. Bill, or,
Morning,
Or-
Mr. Chairman.
yeah, good morning.
As directed, the statute gives the board the authority to set the bond amount for the treasurer that's to be executed to the state. There's no minimum stated in the statute. The maximum is no more than twice the amount that would come into the treasurer's possession in any given year. Given that, it's up to the board.
Okay, so how much is it?
Does the treasurer
Treasurer
want to,
What I- Can I ask us how much we said it for?
Previously, for the prior treasurer, it was $150,000. That was the bond request before. I went back in time to see exactly if it had changed or it went up or down. All I can find is that 150,000, and that's what was approved. The prior treasurer was bonded until the end of this fiscal year, so that was current. Since I'm in there now, we're just looking at the same amount. Other than if there's ups or downs, it's up to y'all how you want to do that.
We do it by making a motion to set the bond at $150,000, which I'll make.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second to set the bond for $150,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, David. Thank you, Bill.
Oh, yeah, here we go. Housing. Thank you, Jonathan.
Is she here?
She's here.
Yeah, oh, she is. I see her now.
Oh, hiding back there.
Come on. It's gonna sit on the floor from now on.
I'll go ahead and call Housing Board Member Virginia Garcia to the dais, and I'll recess the Yuma County Board of Supervisors and convene as the Yuma County Housing Board. Housing Governing Board consent calendar. The following items listed on the consent agenda will be considered as a group and acted upon by one motion with no separate discussion unless board members so request. In that event, the item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate discussion and action.
Although I'd like to hear a lot from Jesus Solano, I mean, Jesus Roldan. I'll make the motion, we approve this as a consent calendar.
I'll second it.
We do this every year.
All right, there's a motion and a second to approve consent calendar.
Sorry about calling you Solano, it's Roldan.
Items 1 through 5. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Let him take the chair back.
Oh,
They didn't like
Careful,
Oh, boy,
careful.
you have good reflexes.
Thank you for coming. Who knows what would happen?
I'll go ahead and adjourn the Yuma County Housing Board and reconvene the Yuma County Board of Supervisors in regular session. Legislative issues. Alejandro.
Busy, busy week.
Sure has been. Mr. Chair, members of the board, Alejandro Figueroa, Economic Development and Intergovernmental Affairs Director. I'll start my presentation with some numbers here. There's been 20 days of legislative session, more than 1,200 bills introduced. With the help of State 48, we've been tracking more than 260 bills that may affect or impact Yuma County. Some important legislative dates to consider. Today is the Senate's deadline to introduce any bills. The House deadline will be on February the 10th, and then on February 21st will be the last day for hearings in the Chamber of Origin. I also like to mention to the board that Senator Dunn is hosting a stakeholder meeting on SB 1212, the biosolids bill, I'm sorry. And I believe I spoke about this bill last time, but I'll go over it briefly again if you don't mind. The bill states that land ag leases can continue using biosolids if they follow ADEQ rules. No additional prohibition may be imposed without an ADEQ violation finding. Compliant state agencies and officials have legal protection from liability related to biosolid use. County-level regulations cannot exceed state BMP standards regarding fugitive dust and biosolids application. ADEQ will update and oversee new biosolid application rules. In-person engagement with farming operations is mandatory before finalizing changes. The bill seems to be going in the right path as far as engaging or trying to give all stakeholders a win on this. Nevertheless, Yuma County and Supervisor Pancrase have been, staff and Supervisor Pancrase have been invited to be part of this stakeholder meeting on Friday over Zoom with Senator Dunn. If any other board member wishes to attend or participate, please feel free to let me know, and I'll be happy to share that link with you. Also,
Mr. Chair, Alejandro, I'll already be up in Phoenix for CSA LPC meeting, and so do you have a time yet?
I do. I believe it's 10 o'clock.
Oh, that
If
will
I'm not
work.
mistaken.
Okay. Okay.
Jim, go ahead.
And do you have a place?
It is 10 o'clock, and I only have it via Teams. I don't have the physical location, so I don't know if Senator Dunn is going to hold it from his office.
Okay.
Who else is a stakeholder?
The companies who actually bring in the biosolids, they're going to be part of that. Universities, U of A, Yuma County, the cities are also, especially City of Yuma, who uses that site to dispose of its septic. So yeah.
For the stakeholders, anybody that's got some sort of relationship with biosolids.
Right. Yes, sir. ADQ included. Yes.
Well, if the bill is to regulate those, I mean, how do you see that as a stakeholder? Because they're regulated, they will be regulated a little bit.
Right. They're being impacted by the bill itself. So yeah, it's as you know, a couple of years ago, we got a bill through the Senate and the House and signed by the governor, which explicitly said that if you bring any biosolids into the state of Arizona, you have to comply with some level of not expert here. You have to be treated to some extent before doing
To
so.
level A.
Level A and B, yes, that's what we discussed back then. Apparently, the growers have gone back to the drawing board and reached out to Senator Dunn to make sure that the state land department is not ruling out keeping them in operations within state land. Right now, state land is only doing annual renewals on their lease because of the use of the land. And they obviously don't agree with that, they meaning the growers and the users of that site. So they're trying to get state land to give them a longer lease than just an annual one.
Mr. Chair and Alejandro, is there any chance we could get an amendment to that bill that says that there has to be a person at the land department and at ADEQ specifically in charge of this, additional staff members, that additional employees added to the state land department and the state ADEQ
Right.
that would be in charge of this statewide, not just here in Yuma, but statewide, that would be just in charge of biosolids.
Right,
in the
Mr.
state of
Chairman,
Arizona.
Supervisor Pancrase, that is actually a great idea. ADQ, as you know, doesn't have the resources nor the manpower to be policing everything that's going on down here. So,
It
yes,
still doesn't have a director.
they do, Mr. Chair,
They have an acting, right?
they have an acting?
Yeah,
Yes.
But they don't have,
Senate hearings are happening this week. I don't know if she is scheduled for a hearing this week.
Who represents us in this stakeholder meeting?
That'll be
The idea
Development
was-
Services, DDS, Craig
The
Sellers.
idea was to
Craig
sort of
does,
bring
yeah.
a little more control over to the county board supervisors, or like a permitting process that allows us
Right.
to.
That's what we asked Representative Dunn to do.
This is what this meeting is about.
Mr. Chair, Supervisor Reyes, as if being an ag operation, we have no zoning
Exempt.
authority over it.
yeah, it's totally exempt, that's right.
So-
That's
Yeah.
why adding a position in the Department of Land and in the Department of Environmental Quality, adding a position in each one of those that would be responsible for just human waste,
From California.
you know, disposal on
wouldn't
properties
you
around the state.
Wouldn't you suggest that one of the board members here would be appointed to that committee? I mean, that would sort of allow us to have a voice in what comes in.
Well, we have no control over it at this level, so it's a state-run because it's in department, it's because of ag. So it is exempt, so, but right now, it's just on somebody's desk, and they don't have enough employees to have one person in charge of it, to be responsible for it, and to make sure that these companies are operating above board, and to make sure that the level of human waste being disposed of on this ag property is at a level, and to make sure that the septage that's being deposited in our landfills and in our deserts are being done at the level of that it won't end up in our water table. So that's why I was asking if there's, if Senate Bill 1212 could have an amendment added to it that would add an employee at the state level in each one of those departments that would oversee this, so that there would be more direct contact, more direct involvement of these agencies. Does that make sense?
Makes sense, as long as we understand, we get this ball rolling, and basically we see it roll. We don't really participate much in it. And I know this is agricultural and it's exempt, but it's the kind of agriculture that impacts everybody. And so I think there's a point there that you have to understand that not all agriculture is good.
Yeah.
This is the kind of situation where home rule applies more than anything else.
Well, they're using the exemption of agriculture in order to bring it in.
Yeah, they are. And we're talking 200 trucks a day.
How many other counties get this stuff?
Pima and Maricopa and
La Paz.
La Paz.
Are the only 4 counties in the state that get it? And where do we compare to them?
We're the only county that takes in septage.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to talk about size, but with the Parker, La Paz is really small.
In addition to that, Mr. Chairman, if I may, other counties place their sites far away from any urban development. So it doesn't create that many environmental nuisances to the residents of those counties.
They don't have PM10 issues either.
Yeah. And our biggest site is South County.
Yeah.
I know, because I drive through it most of the time when it's it's not compatible with everything else. I mean, it may be that they use agricultural exemption, but I mean, it's the fact is the rest of I mean, if you talk about day palms, the rest of that is developed around it. So it's just.
Mr. Chair and Alejandro, since it comes under ag and we have no authority to do anything about it, it has to come from the state, then at least we can make sure that there is an employee at the state level in the departments that have oversight over these companies, because there's been a company in Yuma County that's already been cited for their septage because they didn't get rid of it correctly. But that took a huge, long process because there's not enough employees, or there's not a department or a area within the ADQ or within the land department that handles just this issue. And that's what I would like to ask Senator Dunn to add to his bill. Anyway. Makes sense?
Yep, makes sense. Of course, there's no assurance that
No, there isn't, but at least we have a person to go to when we have issues.
But then Mr. Chairman, the excuse that we've heard is they'll send out U of A to run samples and comes back, and they've determined that.
Yeah, I remember the flying.
Right?
You were so instrumental in it.
Yes, well, we ended up knowing that there was E. coli and salmonella in those flies that were right there at Orange Grove Elementary School. So anyway, but that moves away from our thing. Our point is, I'd like to get a hold of, if you guys don't mind, I'd like to get a hold of Senator Dunn and ask him if he could add that as an amendment.
All right, but I don't want it to fail. I mean, it's
Maybe
little
Jonathan
being
could
done.
too. Yeah.
Sometimes asking
Okay,
people
thanks.
to be.
Well, ADEQ's got to start getting serious about taking action with these issues, because there's a reason California's bringing it over here. Why aren't they dumping it in their own state? Why are they
Against the
dumping?
law in their own state.
They've regulated themselves out of having to be able to take more than a certain amount, yeah.
Exactly.
And it's mostly out of LA, that LA area. San Diego's pretty much taking care of them, their own. I've
Right.
checked with
I
the disposal
thought, you know,
companies.
since the very beginning, it was the amount that was coming in, from California, obviously. As now, all the other entities from here or that are using that, obviously, they're against this because it's gonna cost them more money if they have to treat it, because they don't treat it. But I will say, you know, I'm against California bringing it, but they do treat it. It is treated. Anything that's coming from California is treated. Now, the ones that are dumping it here locally, it's not treated. So they'll be against, because it's gonna cost more money. Now, I've done some research, and if they throw it in the landfill, which they got some lakes there or canals, whatever they call it, yeah, they charge more than the other guy or that company that puts it on the ground. So if everybody's taking it because it's cheaper now, if we want them to treat it, then it's going to be more expensive for them. So obviously they're going to be against it. So I think it's like every other issue that it affects us directly or certain parts of the community of Yuma County here, and it becomes an issue that the state deals with it, but it's not affecting them directly over there, so it won't pass, and we'll continue to see.
You know, I like to add, Maricopa and Yuma County are large counties. I mean, it's a drop in the water there. It's a drop. And here, it's a big deal. I mean,
well, it's a big deal for us, but not for them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
Well,
I think it's how it started. We're out. You know, it's what we were complaining about. It's just gone the opposite. Now it's something different. So honestly,
now it's a permitted use.
Yeah, it's frustrating, but what can we do? We can argue here all day and bring it back, and it ain't gonna change much.
Yeah, the
Until
biosolids,
something happens with the food industry, then it's gonna that everybody's gonna really, you know.
yes, buckle down and
come
then
up
take a
and,
look
you
at
know.
it, yeah.
So but in the meantime, it doesn't matter.
Well,
For a lot of people.
the biosolids are that come to Arizona have to be treated to a level A.
Yeah.
But the septage that only seems to be Yuma County is accepting is not treated to that level, and that's a big
It's not
concern.
even, it's the ones from the porta potties, it's not treated.
That's what
at
I'm
all.
saying.
Not even at a Z level.
And I know, well, and it has chemicals and all kinds of stuff in it. Anyway, we could go on and on, but let's,
Mr. Chairman,
okay.
if I may, I'll just, before moving to the next slide, I'd like to follow up to Vice Chairman Lyons' question from the January 22nd meeting regarding how long it'll take to get a representative from Yuma County to once again be part of the Arizona Transportation Board. And the answer to that is that there are 4 counties in Transportation Board District 6, and the members rotate between the counties. So with 6-year terms, Yuma County would be up for board membership in 2042. Just wanted to make sure that the board was aware of that, and I followed up on that question.
A little ways.
I'm not gonna go there.
Tony,
You might-
you can have that appointment.
That's about the time he's gonna retire, isn't it? So you can just slide in.
You'll be surprised.
Tony will still be here, yeah.
That's why I didn't want to touch it. I knew it was gonna come out that way.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I would like to get, if I may, some feedback or possibly a position on this couple of bills. HB 2017 and HCR 2002, it prohibits a precinct, from containing more than 1,000 registered voters, prohibits a county's board of supervisors from establishing voting centers, prohibits a county board of supervisors from establishing emergency voting centers, and it repeals statute permitting a county recorder to establish on-site early voting locations. While both bills are identical, HCR 2002 would be sent directly to voters after passage from the legislature. CSA is opposing it, and Director Stalwart Burkett considers this a very problematic bill for our county. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if the board would entertain the possibility of taking some position or providing staff with some feedback if you'd like us to join CSA or stay neutral.
I oppose this.
I oppose it.
We need more vote centers in Yuma County, but we don't need to go back to precincts again.
That would mean a lot. I mean, we got 40-some precincts now.
We have to manage.
We have a tough time fulfilling the employees that we have
Well,
right
you'd have to
now.
buy extra equipment.
You have to buy extra equipment. You have to, it's an easy one for me. It's more restrictive than.
Mr. Chairman, and the main reason I'm bringing it up to your attention is because it will go to the ballot, most likely.
Yeah.
At this point.
Oh, either way, I mean, if one or the other comes up, I would be voting to oppose it. I think that in the, they using the fact that some of the elections get a little dicey. We went from first place to last place last time. That's how quick a system can be damaged, but we still got a good system. We tried all the other ones, and it's very difficult to come up with all the employees to man those. I mean, it's not that I'm opposed to, it's to the
More.
yeah, but it's tough.
I mean, 1,000 registered voters per precinct. Come on, that's.
Has anybody done a cost analysis on this?
No.
Just so they can simply understand? Because it's, again, kind of one of those unfunded mandate type things.
That is.
So if they stipulate, or if it goes to the voters just need to understand that we would probably have to raise taxes in order to accommodate the creation. This will mandate, if the state does not provide a remedy, I mean, I am all for expediting our elections, but there are costs associated with this, and the taxpayers need to understand that it would be a function of being able to provide additional resources for X amount of new voting places. So they ought to be looking for a compromise somewhere in between.
And the number of people that we would have to employ to temporarily to even man these additional precincts. So.
We need to expedite elections.
Yes, but there's some bills in the legislature that will do that without moving it back to precincts.
This is a step backwards in my case. I mean, I've been around here a long time, and I know what problem.
So we oppose it.
Yeah. Do you need a motion and second to formalize that, or can that be done?
No.
Okay, so motion.
Yes.
Thank you for that.
And you can keep us, yeah.
Hey, Mr. Chair, I apologize about some of the commotion. I think facilities is doing some work up on the roof, so you might see a little shaking.
I heard it shaking.
As long as nobody comes
If
through
it's
the roof,
distracting,
it's
let me
fine.
know and we can stop it, but that's
Well,
what
somebody
it is.
needs to be videotaping, so if they come to the roof, we can put it on Funniest Home Videos, okay?
Funniest
Okay,
office
good.
videos?
Yeah, Funniest Office Videos.
Okay, moving on, December 2024 general fund revenue collections totaled $1.55 billion. which is an increase of 12.6% above December 2023. The state's base revenue growth rate in
Perhaps they could
December
wait till after our meeting.
was 0.7% above December 2023. This minimal growth in December revenues generated a $13 million forecast gain above the enacted budget revenue forecast. The modest forecast gain during the month of December was the result of mixed performance across the state's revenue categories. Corporate income tax posted a significant gain, which was partially offset by forecast losses in the sales, individual income, and insurance premium tax categories. Continuing on that line, fiscal year to date, through December, state revenues have shown moderate growth, primarily driven by individual and corporate income tax collections. However, sales tax growth has decelerated markedly, largely due to declines in prime contracting activity, particularly within the non-residential and special trade contractor sector. This represents the slowest growth rate of the comparable period since fiscal year 2022, when Arizona's construction industry was adversely affected by the pandemic. At the county level, revenue growth has followed a similar pattern fiscal year to date, with some key differences. Counties who are not beneficiaries of income tax collections instead rely on revenues generated from property taxes, which are subject to constitutional and statutory restrictions. Primarily, property tax revenue growth has shown moderate gains of 5% fiscal year to date. This performance, alongside moderate excise tax growth, has helped to offset weaker growth in state share sales tax and vehicle license tax revenues. This report is from the CSA. On the federal side, House Republicans are close to finalizing a large tax and spending bill. Some of the key points include the fact that the bill plans to extend major parts of President Trump's 2017 tax cuts at a projected cost of about $5.5 trillion over 10 years, while also adding roughly $325 billion in new spending for national security and immigration enforcement. The legislation is being pushed through the reconciliation process, which allows it to pass with a simple majority in the Senate despite its contentious nature. However, the GOP faces a narrow margin in the House, and many members remain uncommitted. Disagreements over issues like expanding Medicaid work requirements and limiting food stamp benefits are causing divisions, with fiscal conservatives and others expressing concerns about increasing the national debt. Several committees have been tasked with specific cost-saving measures. For example, the Ag Committee targets $50 billion by potentially restricting food stamp expansion. Despite significant buy-in among many Republicans, the bill faces serious challenges. The narrow House majority, potential resistance in the Senate, where, by the way, breaking up the package has been proposed, and the need to reconcile various internal factions mean that overcoming these hurdles remains a steep political math problem. President Trump and Speaker Mike Johnson are pushing for a swift passage by late spring, but internal dissent, fueled by concerns over the national debt, could derail the effort. While there are spending cuts in the plan, they are not designed to completely counterbalance the cost of the tax cuts. Instead, the strategy is to rely on economic growth to generate additional revenue.
And that's not happening with all these tariffs. Okay.
On the international front, after announcing 25% increase in tariffs on products from Canada and Mexico this past weekend, today President Trump was scheduled to hold conversations with his counterparts from both neighboring nations. And I'm happy to report that at 9 o'clock our time, President Trump announced that he agreed to, and I quote, immediately pause tariffs on Mexico, which are set to take end quote, which are set to take effect on midnight for a month after a very, and I quote again, very friendly conversation with Mexico's President Sheinbaum. Quoting the President Trump, he said, I just spoke with President Sheinbaum of Mexico. It was a very friendly conversation wherein she agreed to immediately supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border separating Mexico and the U.S. We further agreed to immediately pause the anticipated tariffs for a one-month period during which we will have negotiations headed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Secretary of Treasury Scott Bessent, and Secretary of Commerce Howard Lutnick, and high-level representatives from Mexico. I look forward to participating in those negotiations with President Sheinbaum as we attempt to achieve a deal between our two countries. So for now, the tariffs with Mexico are being paused.
What about Canada?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. Does that apply to the asparagus, all the lettuce, the stuff that came in? Everything? Everything is supposed to?
Everything, yep.
Everything that comes, even the chips you bring in.
As far as I'm concerned, it will apply to everything.
I'm not gonna say anything.
Los totitos.
Supervisor
Those
Pankratz.
Takis would have
Yes.
gone up a lot.
He is supposed to be, President Trump is holding conversations with Prime Minister Trudeau today as well. So we'll
Thank you.
wait and see what comes out of that conversation. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'll move on to the next item, which is the approval, review and possible approval of 2025 Yuma County federal legislative priorities.
Permanent bills, yes.
I'd like to bring back PILT into our federal priorities. NACO is working on it. It hasn't had a lot of success lately. But the idea of PILT, as you know, is to have it permanently fixed into the budget instead of having to reapply or wait every year for it to get approved by Congress.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I've been here for 20-some years, and I mean, every year we try this. Every year we try to make it an appropriation that doesn't have to go to Congress every year. And it fails every year. It's almost, and now the situation, I think, is so to a point that it's a decision made every year, and the budget is getting tighter, and it's going to be tough to keep it up. But I think us taking the position that it should be a permanent, especially given the fact that 8-point-some% is only privately owned here, that impacts us a lot. But I've always said that we should prepare for the worst all the time. But that's not necessarily how I look at it. I look at the county's success in meeting all these requirements as part of the problem sometimes. Is they don't see the need. If they don't see the particular need, they vote accordingly. So I think we need to keep the pressure on them to do that. I mean, I would include that as part of our legislative priorities.
Oh, big time.
So I'll go through the 4 items, Mr. Chairman, and members of the board, and you let me know if you'd like me to remove any of them, add any additional ones. The second one I'm suggesting to the board is, again, H-2A visas. We did this last year, supporting the idea of removing the 3-year visa cap, provide enough visas for full-time ag workers, and possibly not have to share those H-2A visas between the ag and the dairy industries.
Yes, I want to keep that as part of our priorities.
Yes.
Third one is to ask the federal government to facilitate expedited staffing of an additional 200 CBP agents at the San Luis One Port of Entry. We are, as you know, the federal government is investing $311 million to remodel and expand the San Luis One Port of Entry, which is primarily used for private vehicles, passengers, and pedestrians. This overhaul will double vehicle inspection booths from 8 to 16 and expand pedestrian checkpoints by 40%. The San Luis One Port of Entry averages 9,000 vehicle crossings and 7,500 pedestrian crossings daily. CBP currently employs roughly 200 individuals, including agents, officers, and staff and administrators at both Port of Entries in San Luis.
I support that, but I think you need to update your numbers. I don't think 311 million is what it's going to cost, one. Second, the problem sometimes is when they come in. I mean, you have 9,000 people, but they all try to come in, 7,000 of them, 6,000 try to come in between 5 and 6 and 7 in the morning. So it's like a freeway in LA. I mean, you can go through there at 10 a.m., but try to do that at 7:30, 10, 8 o'clock. So we need to put something there like peak travel all the time. I mean, because the average is the average, but in the winter, the average goes up quite a bit. You need more staffing. And in the summer, it slows down a little bit. That's the nature of the beast, but we need to deal with peak travel at certain hours to really drive the point home that the average isn't really telling the story. It's just sort of summing it up. But 200, I think they employ 200 people now between the 2 ports of entry. So asking for 200 more is doubling the size of that. It is doubling from 8 to 16, lanes, but I mean, we still have no response from Mexico about what they're gonna do and how they're gonna do it. So, I don't know, it seems to me a clear-cut situation where we go and ask for the additional agents. It's not as clear-cut to me that they're going to provide 200 more. That will double the size of the staffing required. But I don't know what the taste is right now in the federal government.
You always ask for more and because you're gonna get cut.
Yep.
So,
I'll keep it.
Mr. Chairman. Supervisor Reyes, thank you for that. I just want to point out the fact that these numbers are provided by the executive director of GYPA late last week. So this is the.
I think you can actually contact Chris De Leon and actually ask him to provide you with the numbers because they normally complain that they can't handle the number of people sometimes. And you see the lines outside. The pedestrian lanes go up 2 or 3 blocks sometimes. So it's just when, it's like any freeway, it gets loaded up at a certain time.
Right.
So the averages are okay. I mean, they're average or daily. And I know we need to use that, but we need to actually address the issues of when they're need additional staff.
Perfect. And I'll go on to the last point, recommended by staff. It's allocating a full-time USDA entomologist at the San Luis II Commercial Port of Entry. U.S. Customs and Border Protection Act specialists can only identify pests within a limited catalog. A USDA entomologist, also known as identifier, must clear or investigate any unlisted pests. A full-time entomologist would streamline inspections and eliminate inefficiencies in processing fresh produce. The San Luis II Commercial Port of Entry is Yuma County's primary trade corridor, handling over $3 billion in fresh agriculture imports, such as salad, asparagus, lettuce, and other crops. The San Luis Port Director has offered space and lab space at the Port of Entry for USDA to use. And if I may, just to, I was part of a meeting this past week with USDA, and Mr. Paul Riley, who's the director, or soon to be appointed director, hopefully, of the Ag in the state of Arizona, and CBP. And there was a lot of discussion on this issue. USDA is willing to consider moving their full-time person to the Port of Entry, and they're looking into the possibility of having an additional employee help out during the peak Act season to make sure that any truck coming in is not delayed because of a lack of an entomologist on site. So City of San Luis is also taking the lead on this, and they're trying, with the help of their consultant, getting some meetings in Washington, D.C. During the NACO conference. We'll see if that actually happens or not. Still waiting to hear back on an official date and time. But anyways, Mr. Chairman, that would conclude the presentation on the 2025 federal legislative priorities for Yuma County.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, how is it lobbyists that we just hired? Is it state and federal?
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, no, the lobbyist only helps us with the state. I'm the one dealing with the federal component of it.
So who's taking the lead in the federal? Luis Ramirez? You are with Luis?
No, Luis is not employed by the county.
I know. Okay, no, I just wanted to sort of, look, the USDA issue is a USDA issue. It's kind of clear cut to me that the guy that's in Yuma should be in San Luis. There's no reason for him not to, it's more of a convenience thing. Now, setting up an additional officer would solve that problem, but it wouldn't really solve the problem. The problem is their willingness to actually get the guy down there. It's not like they don't have someone that could do the job. It's that the person prefers to be in Yuma all the time. It's a complex issue that I think needs the USDA to react to what we're asking them instead of.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Reyes, and one point that was brought up by USDA at the meeting is that it would take them about 4 or 5 years to move the lab down. It would cost them $500,000 to do it. So we're trying to look into other options through the GYPA.
That's a simple one. If it's going to cost $500,000, we need to find them.
Right.
I agree.
Right. I have no problem with the legislative agenda. It's pretty well covered. I mean, I could come up with a couple of more things, but I think that will diffuse the effort. And I think that we need to focus. These are probably the most important issues that affect Yuma County in general right now. So I think we just need to adopt it or give you instructions to go ahead and pursue those
That's right, yeah, if you're willing to make a motion to that effect to approve.
Well, okay, I would make a motion that we adopt the legislative schedule or agenda as presented today.
Priorities, yeah. I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve the legislative priorities or federal priorities. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Summary current events. Supervisor Penker.
Oh, okay. Everything I've been doing has to do with CSA at the state level, LPC meetings, ACO meetings, which is the Arizona Association of Counties, county officials meetings, because I'm on their board, and that's, I've been doing NCSA. So that's basically what I've been up to. I also got to help with the COFA Athletic Hall of Fame and work with the soccer team from COFA. They are a wonderful group of kids. I just really enjoyed working with them. Anyway, that's it.
Until they hit Reed with football.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, had a phone call with the Friends of the Colorado. It is a group focused on keeping the confluence clean. And they're going to be having a cleanup here shortly. But you can find it on their Facebook page. They've taken upon themselves to be stewards of the lower Colorado River and working with BLM and Bureau of Reclamation as well. Had several meetings on water, 2 or 3 different meetings and phone calls on the mesh network, and it's rolling out and completion, et cetera, et cetera. Participated in the Asian Lunar New Year celebration in Phoenix with the Arizona Asians, and then also with Tony participated in the groundbreaking of the Regional Center for Border Health Hospital.
Perfect. Good.
And Tori wanted to remind you guys of the Amaryllis Place dinner this week.
Several community meetings in the foothills, referenced some issues going on out there. YMPO, kind of interesting, attended a neighborhood meeting at a little gentleman's house up there, and it kind of surprised me. It had Representative Gozard was there, along with Senator Dunn and Representatives Pena, and Carbone, and Cupper, and a few others were at this gentleman's house. So it was a very interesting meeting with the neighborhood.
I would want to emphasize that First Hospital in San Luis is a great thing. And now we're going to get 2 of them, I hope.
Yes.
One after another, which just goes out to go back to what we said initially with the agenda. If you focus on something, there's a more of a greater likelihood you're going to get it. I've been focusing a lot on the logistics side in San Luis and South County, which is the trucking system, which is why all these issues come up. A lot of them, the issue 8. With this mass deportation process going on, it may be that's going to drive that process a little more. I think that's probably, if anything can come out good out of this motions, those things can probably now happen more than they could ever be considered in the past. We're going to need a big crew.
You haven't heard the news. You don't listen to the Mexican president?
Oh, well.
That's on the chopping list.
Yeah, well. Things don't happen the way that they're supposed to sometimes. The second thing is, I want to emphasize a lot that, and thank the rest of the board for their support on that Highway 95 update. That's looking good. That's looking really good. And I hope we continue on the Yuma, which is the next level, the next phase. That it's, and the reason why it came up so well is probably because the middle lane isn't touched much. I mean, there's not much traffic on it, so it really became a situation that I think can be better handled. And I also want to thank the administrator for his care and attention to Gadsden, which is an issue that's coming up a lot, Gadsden, Arizona. So thank you very much, and I guess that would be it for my report. Oh, I forgot. Who's going to the NACO legislative meeting in DC?
You and then.
You're not going? Okay.
As president, I have to go.
It's for us to coordinate with the city of San Luis on the port of entry situation. I don't know how that's gonna work out.
Ian?
Thank you, Chairman. Attended the Arizona City County Management Association Conference. We had our quarterly managers meeting last week. That's a group of all Yuma County city, town, county managers and deputies to get together and share shared concerns. YSIPTA Board of Directors meeting. That was my last meeting as chair of YSIPTA. I'm still on the board, just no longer chair. Arizona Network Service Providers meeting. Met with the new treasurer, David Alexandri, to wrap up my introductory meetings with each of the new elected officials. Had a good meeting with presiding Judge David Hawes. And a reminder that tomorrow at 4 p.m. at City Hall in room 190, we have our concurrent work session with the City of Yuma City Council. So we'll see you there.
4 p.m., huh?
Yes, sir.
And
I'm not gonna be there. I've got something medical to take care of. The only thing I forgot is to congratulate Maria Elena on her appointment, Cruz, and her appointment to the state Supreme Court. It's nice to see the change. We had Andy Gold there once, I remember. And now we have Maria Elena Cruz, which is a great addition to the court. I'd like to thank everybody for their support, and I'd like to congratulate Maria Elena on her appointment.
Oh, that's exciting.
all right, thank you. Ian? Meeting adjourned.
All right.
Guys, tomorrow.